Are we about to start the season? And DeShaun Foster still getting guys? That's the head coach I want.
You are Locked On UCLA, your daily podcast on the UCLA Bruins. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yeah, we're tiptoe borderline late June now. It's summertime. We're heading into July. Some people have made Independence Day plans. And your coach is still out there getting guys. So much so that they're already practically enrolled and moved in. And most UCLA people didn't even realize that was the case. That is what DeShaun Foster's doing for UCLA. That is the excitement we bring on this episode of Locked On UCLA. I'm your host, Zach Anderson-Yoxsimer. This episode is brought to you by Gametime. And that's where you're going to want to go to get your UCLA tickets this year. Because if you're going to wait to the last minute like every LA sports fan does, DeShaun Foster's worth it this year to go fill up the Rose Bowl and not make sure it's bumping full of Big Ten rivals. It's got to be UCLA fans. Because think of the work that DeShaun Foster has done over taking a program that was left for dead by Chip Kelly, going for an offensive coordinator position at Ohio State, and DeShaun Foster has made the best out of it. And yet, Coach Foster has found a way to put together the 30-person class, 30-man class. Yes, some remnants left over from Chip Kelly, a lot of feelers put out there by Chip Kelly. The 25 class will definitely have an opportunity for DeShaun Foster to put his full overarching touch on it. And even in today's day and age of coaching and the transfer portal, coaches who take over even this late in the game still have a chance to put together a roster that looks a lot like what they want, or they have more of their hands on it. UCLA's got 20 transfers. Not 30 transfers, 20 transfers. Isn't that nuts? Isn't that nuts for what UCLA is doing to finish off this class of 24? That's how late the recruiting cycle goes this day and age. And while we're going to touch a little bit more later about the changes to upcoming recruiting cycles, which starts now, UCLA has got 2 late transfers in the game. You've got an experienced defensive lineman coming in from South Carolina, former player at UAB. It was initially teased by Mike Zenitz of the 24/7 sports outlet earlier in the weekends. You know, when we were debating whether it's summer or not, you're going to the beach, it was hot. He was putting in work to come to UCLA. Drew Tuazama, someone who was all conference in Conference USA, right? He was getting those types of honors. Didn't do much in South Carolina, but enough that South Carolina went and took a chance on him. He's coming to UCLA with 1 year of eligibility. Remember, UCLA has lost a lot in the D-line, from the Murphy twins, from obviously Leatu Latu, first-round pick. You had Brian Strother leave. You had Toia think he was leaving and then come back when the Bruins threw a fat NIL deal enough to keep him from leaving to Texas. And then you've got UCLA going and getting guys in the portal, some with Kelly, some now with DeShaun Foster. And even this late in the game, you get somebody who's coming in, possibly that could be looked at as some NFL draft talent, maybe an undrafted free agent, depending on how his final year of college football goes with UCLA, and Drew Tuazama. One of the guys that looks like he's moved in, if you're reading some Bruin report online. Where did this happen? It's looking like committed. No. He's at UCLA. This is happening. To complete a 30-man practically class in the class of 24. So somebody who with UAB at 6'5", 290 pounds, 5 sacks to lead UAB, right? So this is somebody who can come in, was a 3-star kid out of high school, add some depth. Not going to say he's going to be an absolute take down the D-line like Latu was, who came out of nowhere to dominate, as what was still technically projected a backup defensive lineman. Yet UCLA, they're getting something with some talent who's proven it on the field and will have plenty of opportunities. He's been used a little bit as an edge. If Akaika Malloy wants to get really funky with it, he can put him in different spots interiorly on the edge. UCLA's got a versatile guy. And in addition to that, the Bruins are also getting some love when it comes to offensive linemen as well. You're going to get I'm going to say this. I'm going to try my best. We're going to make this right. Oluwafunso Akinsilo out of Iowa State. So what does this mean? All right. This is a bit of an older news. It's coming to UCLA. He was practically moved in already. Cyclone, a SoCal kid, prepped at Lusinger, El Camino, went out to be a Cyclone. 6'5", 335. Good news for UCLA fans, although in the transfer portal day and age, NIL bucks, NFL draft, everybody's going to be throwing money at him. It's who might throw the biggest paycheck. He's still got 2 years left to be a depth interior offensive lineman to find ways to do things importantly for UCLA football, where the Bruins, they needed some depth on the O-line and the D-line. What's it going to be to go into Big Ten day and age? It's learning how to pass rush. It's learning how to contain the run. Having a stout defense up front is crucial to be successful in the Big Ten. A lot of those teams over time traditionally have had good defenses. Even if they can't score the football, they can stop you. Now, UCLA, to counter that offensively, they're going to need some strong linemen, depth at that position, where they clearly didn't have that necessarily the last couple seasons, and it's slowly been getting worse and worse in 21, 22, 23. We saw UCLA take a big hit in the offensive line room after few guys have gone NFL bound, and now they're slowly building up. And while they got a lot of guys as freshmen who can hopefully build up as a sophomore, remember the old school days when you didn't just go grab somebody from the other school and hope they are good enough, plug and play an offensive lineman? You built them up for a year or two and saw if they're good enough and had enough depth to handle, whether it's from a center exchange, whether it's left guard, offensive tackle, whatever it might be. UCLA's got more continuity with guys entering the transfer portal and returning, taking their name, withdrawing their name from the transfer portal. And then you've got what the Bruins have gotten out of the portal and getting depth and recruiting freshmen who have already enrolled or are coming to UCLA in the fall in September, or in this case, in the late summer, early fall, August into the early parts of the season at Hawaii, where UCLA is getting some depth at positions of need. What does that say about DeShaun Foster? It says he's a man after what he wants, taking over the ruins of the program where it was after Chip Kelly jilted them and building something up into, I think, something that should be fairly competitive. Now, I think all of us have different ideas of what competitive is, whether it's shocking the Big Ten and getting a lot more wins than people think. I'm not going to say Northwestern because that was a very different situation in years previous, but that was the surprise last year in the Big Ten of a team that super exceeded expectations. But UCLA is coming in with rock bottom recruiting rankings in 24, rock bottom expectations in terms of, all right, they're a little dog to USC, whatever, right? Even though Lincoln Riley in his own thing is seemingly overrated. The Bruins, rightfully so, probably underrated. And I think can surprise some teams with what they've got. If DeShaun Foster can get the heart and the minds right for these guys, discipline, focus, enthusiasm, his big keys to get this team to succeed. And if the Bruins will follow Bieniemy's lead, if Akaka Malloy can continue the magic from Danton Lynn from one year to the next and continue to retool a defense that has a lot of new moving pieces in the secondary with like 25, 26-year-old guys in the secondary, older guys trying to make their names known to go to the NFL, you could have a lot of guys working very hard. And you don't want to say this for a paycheck, but they pretty much are in their last years of college football in the COVID day and age, just to earn themselves an opportunity at the next level or get some dough in their last year of college football or to prepare for next year as you're slowly turning into a pay-for-play model in the NCAA. And UCLA has turned themselves into a contender, late game transfer portal, early game transfer portal, recruiting in the 25 cycle. DeShaun Foster alone, just by his energy and enthusiasm, has flipped the script and taken what Chip Kelly did, which was bring guys in the portal and place emphasis on getting talent in certain spots here for this UCLA roster. Now, are these going to be five-star kids? No, that's not what he's getting right now. That's not what's out there. Those paychecks have already practically been handed out in the NIL bucks. But I'm still proud of what DeShaun Foster has done to get this team ready, roster-wise, for the next year with 30 new faces. It's going to be tough to remember and figure out who it all is and who are the new faces and who might take spots that we're not expecting and thrive with them or fail, because that's going to happen in this year. But I'm ready for the first year in the Big Ten. And DeShaun Foster's proving he's capable at this part of the job. Now it's up to the wins and losses and the coaching and the X's and O's around him to build a foundation to succeed at this new Big Ten era. Speaking of new next level era, UCLA, regardless of who's coaching, has proven to be NBA talent. Let's take a look at a recent publication talking about UCLA's basketball program on the men's side, producing and helping bring out NBA talent consistently. You're going to want to get those tickets for Gametime with Gametime to UCLA football games this next year. Whether you're going to wait till the last minute, I know you guys are. You're going to wait for the hype to happen. But when you're going to want to go and find those tickets on Gametime. And you know what? This is perfect because they got last minute deals. 60% off buying last minute for sports, concerts, theaters. And right now, if you're enjoying summer, of course, Major League Baseball is the place to be if you want to go watch some games also on Gametime. Because, my Dodgers, they're doing some things. You're going to want to go to Gametime. Flash deals with exclusive in-app deals on select seats ahead of the game or event. And there's no surprise fees at checkout. Let me tell you, every time I get freaking angry at the fact that you're going to have to account or fake account for these fees. No, they tell you what the price is at checkout. There's no surprise fees. So take the guesswork out of buying Major League Baseball tickets with Gametime. Download the app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem LOCKEDONCollege, LOCKEDONCOLLEGE, Locked On College for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right, here we are, second segment of Locked On UCLA. We're talking UCLA men's hoops. And no, we're not talking specifically the current team, which we've talked about little bits and pieces, who might be the most immediate, who might have the immediate impact, who's going to be the starting five, and guessing the rotation. All right, that's not what we're talking about today. We're talking about former Bruins and how they might impact future Bruins. What does that mean? Well, Fox Sports recently posted a publication, June 25th, same day we're recording, and the next day we'll be dropping this podcast, about, we're heading into the NBA draft. We're having all these fall, winter sports, and now late summer, early summer, I guess. Who are the best schools at pumping out NBA talent? Not just guys who just, all right, they're drafted, they get a couple watt, they have their moment in the sun in the NBA, right? There's most NBA players, and based off this ranking system, it's who is the best between an all-rookie team, an all-star, based on this Fox Sports list. Who is an MVP? And whether it's guys who were solid last few years prior, helped just win, I don't want to say it, the Boston Celtics, an NBA championship, they were filled with Bruins. Teams who could have gone deep, teams who had those key role players, key players leading teams defensively. A lot of those guys have come from UCLA, even if they're previous regimes. But Mick Cronin has proven that he is clearly, if you give him an opportunity to develop and you're a leader, you're mature, Jaime Jaquez Jr. leads the recent crop of UCLA players. And if it wasn't the second coming of some supersized king, literally, and Victor Wembanyama and other players, Jaquez could have been in another year really in the running from Rookie of the Year. But an all-rookie team is certainly fitting for Jaquez Jr. and this UCLA team, who, according to this ranking, UCLA ranks higher than the likes of Duke, higher than Kentucky, the Kansas, whatever it may be. A lot of these numbers you're going to see pushed up by Russell Westbrook, and we all have different ideas of the opinions of Russell Westbrook, but he stayed a couple of years at UCLA. Who went to UCLA, grew things? It was Jrue Holiday, and was very vital in the recent NBA champions run to a championship because he was a stalwart defensively. Doesn't mean a lot to Mick Cronin necessarily, but it does mean the pipeline, the brand recognition is still there for UCLA men's basketball, right? Whether it's going back to the Kevin Love days. He was a big, huge recruit coming in, led them to a Final Four. We've seen different iterations from him, 2020 guy, little slimmer shooting buckets guy, one with the Cavs, different roles in the later stages of his career. And then you've got the Levines when he's healthy. You've got the likes of Lonzo Ball, who proved prior to Mick Cronin, didn't really do things for Alfred's overall tenure. But what he proved is when you bring excitement, talent, and fun basketball to UCLA, the fans will come, the votes will come, and you'll have a packed Poly Pavilion consistently, like they did at Lonzo Ball. Now, a lot of it had to do with the outspoken LeVar, but still UCLA, after a little dead in the water couple years, were near the top of the rankings in the poll that year. Selling out, winning at a sold-out Rupp Arena when Lonzo Ball was healthy prior to the recent years of injury proneness and everything. But UCLA, when you bring those players in, they'll pack it out. And they've been producing at the NBA level, even in maybe it's short stints, but they go based off these rankings. And when it comes to the score based off totals, they gave points to based on this ranking. Blocks per game, assists, they go based off numbers. So it's not just a guy who can score, a guy who plays a little defense. It's who overall affects the game and made it to a conference finals, made it to an NBA finals, championships, rookies of the year, finals MVP, all these things, all defense. And UCLA has certainly churned out players, a lot of players who have been NBA quality. Now, it's going to be a little cheating when you talk about Lou Alcindor, as we know him as a Laker, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and a Buck, then when he won his first championship, everything in between. But recently, think of everything, and the poster child for Mick Cronin really wants to do in recruiting, other than just throw money at these recruits in the term of NIL or eventually maybe direct pay to play. It's going to be pointed to Jaime Jaquez Jr. and the development of what that means to UCLA and how his continued success, his ability to stay 4 years and prove he can grow was important for UCLA. A developmental school. Yes, Drew Holiday, important with the Celtics winning the championship, only stayed 1 year, but how just that year of building and growing was instrumental for UCLA's success at the college level and proving as a brand recognition level that, hey, they still churn out NBA talent. Yeah, okay, you're going to go look at the Kentuckys, the Dukes, the Kansas. All right, they got more names, but who has done more with those guys in the NBA? UCLA said, last few years, 15 players technically at elite NBA levels, depending on this ranking, and they're number one for a reason. And I think that's important to remember. Hey, UCLA going to the Big Ten, they're going to spread their waters even more nationally. They've already done it literally across the globe internationally. Now they're going to do so by finding ways to get those new recruits, whether it's locally, whether it's across the country, everywhere, as Mick Cronin has found ways to do so with the expanding rules of NCAA recruiting and who can coach in different ways UCLA can use. Unfortunately, their strong muscles as a bigger public school in a Power 4 conference, Power 5, when it comes to basketball, and just take over what they want, which they should be doing in men's basketball, right? They have the power. Corey Close already can get what she wants when it comes to recruiting. She gets top 5 classes. She's gotten the top 3 recruits in the class of 22 on her team via the portal. She's proven she can do what she wants. Mick Cronin, developing NBA talent, churning it out. This is exactly what you want. You post this. Hey, look at this. Even though I wasn't here, we're still pumping out NBA players. The brand name means something, right? Why is Bronny James going to get drafted probably higher than he should at this stage of his career? Brand recognition, LeBron James. For UCLA, you're going to get that brand name recognition. Even though talent, you're going to find it. They're going to go international. They'll go find their Lucas of the world. They'll go find their Victor Wembanyama's of the world. But UCLA's brand goes a lot further. And that's where the NBA developmental stage at the college level for UCLA has been important. Now, the death of the Pac-12 moving to the Big Ten means something different. It will. It still doesn't mean when you see UCLA and they went there, they played a few years, they succeeded, they competed. And when you're a Mick Cronin player, you're going to know how to play defense and compete, unless he does not put in a good word for you, but he certainly can, has a lot of sway. He said a lot of things about Jaquez Jr., and you knew Jaime was ready to be underappreciated prior and overappreciated later. And that's exactly what's happened. And now UCLA can use that to their strength in recruiting going later, beyond just the NIL money as well. Speaking of recruiting, changes in the NCAA, sweeping changes. Let's talk about that next on Locked On UCLA and what that means for UCLA as a bigger school. They're just going to flex on these little schools. Sorry, man. College sports, it's a mess. It's a crazy mess. It's a fun mess to talk about. Let's talk about what that means for UCLA and all of college sports next. As promised, we're going to talk about the new changes in the NCAA. We have the councils, all these different committees that happen, right? Whether it's the UC Regents that plagued UCLA for so long, they're going to have to pay some tax. You have the NCAA, which is changing rules from no first down, clock stoppages, and all these things, and safety. helmet communications, a lot of things changing lately in the NCAA. Reading this from the On3 article, where there's so many changes. This was from Pete Nakos, how college football continues to change. That's a broken record, literally a broken record, literally. Because in Indianapolis, they had annual meetings. The Division I Council for the NCAA expanded college football coaching staffs, which means anybody can coach players. If you didn't know, you have quality control. You have so many different weird titles of names for coaches. I'm a quality assistant. I'm all these things, which meant probably a paycheck, a foot in the door. As we know it back in the day, interns grabbing a cup of coffee. That's kind of what it meant in the college football world. Your cup of coffee, go grab it for the coaches, can interact, you can go do a little something here and there. But for UCLA and all these other college football coaches, this was just your way to get in the door. However, assistants, analysts, quality control coaches are finding ways to move up the ranks quicker because now they can all instruct athletes on the field. They couldn't do anything other than assist off the field, watch film, provide expertise. But now for analysts, it's going to change the game because these other jobs, FCS head coaching jobs, whether it's group of 5 or even lower Division I coaching jobs, whatever it may be, all these coaches, they're going to go to the SEC country. They're going to go to privates, whatever the big name public schools. They're going to go to Oregon and be quality assistants and quality control. You're like, what does that even mean? General manager, some things that we didn't even have official names for weren't even important in years past. But they're going to go do those things and get a buttload more money to do so and be more involved and feel more like coaches rather than what some might say archaic NCAA rules, which some coaches say that's a good idea. Those are probably coaches at big name universities in the SEC saying this is a good job. All these people in my building are good. And this will help UCLA, certainly. But remember, still a public university. They can't just go throw money everywhere as a UC. They have to account all their money spent everywhere. But still, it's going to be a lot for DeShaun Foster, who has his connections. He brought in Eric Bieniemy as his offensive coordinator. And Eric Bieniemy brought in all these people, and Foster brought in all these guys as offensive line coach. Remember, UCLA for a little bit there in Chip Kelly had the Ken Norton Jr.'s. They had Foster as a running backs coach. They had some quality staff, but now the quality control can continue to build. And what's interesting is now you can have guys who can go recruit. You can name anybody as recruiter. You can have a limited number of guys recruit, but any of those guys can go just straight literally recruit. So you can go grab a guy, hire him, and be a master recruiter. It doesn't have to be your Jerry Neuheisel. You can go find your Jerry Neuheisel equivalents who is just as good at recruiting and have your guy who is good at coaching coach and mix and match and do all those things. And from reading this article in On3, it looks like a lot of the things we're going to see changes-wise from our coaching include middle linebackers, which is important. Quarterbacks, at some point you're going to run out of things you can tell a quarterback. Look this way, wear your goggles or whatever they're wearing on the UCLA helmets nowadays. You're going to have this read, but overall you're going to hear a lot more from the quarterback coaching and coaching on the field as opposed to just reading and looking at tape over and over and over and over and over and over again. And here's a fun asset, I think, which will be cool based on what I think this article says. Special teams. Might get more important coaches involved with special teams. They won't look as sloppy. Maybe more innovations and how the NFL is changing the game with new kickoff rules, which slowly might work its way down as it usually does to college football, high school, tiny tags, whatever it is, flag football, whatever it is, right? You're going to get a lot more fun, innovative ways in college football. Remember, the kickers aren't as good, so they're not just booting out of the back of the end zone. I don't personally want just fair catches every time for a touchback if they're like at the 20-yard line or the 15, forcing a return. So you're going to see more fun things when it comes to field goals. Remember back in the day, I know UCLA didn't necessarily do this in recent years, but in college football, we've had significant plays won and lost on fake special teams plays, right? Like the LSUs or whatever play. Well, I think, what was it? Michigan State, I think, did one recently, last decade, 15 years, right? Iconic plays on special teams. Of course, Michigan State beating Michigan on the failed punt, where you're going to see all these different fun things. Maybe you'll see funky formations, or you'll see the old, what Oregon used to do, and just go for two, yada, yada, yada. Everything can be more innovative on special teams. That's a thought. If you're going to have more coaches, they're going to spend more time nitpicking rules and finding ways to get guys who are with elite speed as they've started to do in the NFL, get guys who can just return. They might do that in college football, get guys who can return, right? They're like the relief pitchers in baseball. You're going to get the guy who can go and return kicks. Guys, obviously, special teams is literally kind of like that already, but especially returners, they're going to get that in special teams coaches who are recruiting certain guys who are developing different things and trying to be innovative because now they can get paid to do so and coach. It's unlimited. Unlimited. Now, recruiting, still limited as to who can go out there, but now they can have different titles and go do that. On-field coaching, that is unlimited, which I think is entirely a new ball game. And the other thing is, on the playing rules oversight panel, helmet communication in FBS games and 2-minute timeouts at the end of the first half. Remember, all these things that they've had already, that's going to be different, that they've already approved, involve helmet communications directly from coaches to players up to 15 seconds left of the play clock. So what's important is teams who move fast, which was interesting. Under Chip Kelly, they move quicker. Now, under DeShaun Foster, I wonder if they're going to be a little slower, go old school, or if they can have Eric Bieniemy yelling in the guy's ear, take your backwards hat off, as he did with the Commanders, if you saw that in the story the last couple of weeks. Or they're going to have the snap of the ball. Teams who work quick, they're going to have a lot of communication. So if you're going to have a lot of coaches coaching these guys up, you're going to have guys who can tell them how to literally wear a helmet and learn how to communicate inside a helmet with the coach directly until 15 seconds, like they do in the NFL and will basically do in college football. College football is going to look a lot more like the UFL or turning into an NFL of sorts, which sometimes it does and sometimes it doesn't, which makes college football so beautiful. The pageantry of it all, words said by many, and many before me and many after me will say the same thing. But it's going to look more NFL. We got 30 billion coaches. You're going to have rosters. You can soon give scholarships to many guys, more than just what the limits will be. We're going to have unlimited coaching staffs, unlimited players and scholarships probably, if we're not there, directly paying the superstars. And you're going to see a very top-heavy, if we already haven't seen it in every sport already, where you're seeing a lot of SEC-dominated sports, slowly, as the Pac-12 has been taken over by Big 12, ACC, Big 10, UCLA is going to have to get on the map. And I wonder what that means for UCLA with all these things. Helmet communication, that's older news. But now that DeShaun Foster is getting that money, he's going to have to, one, find ways to, as he did, keep Jay Tuia here. Now, he's going to have to find ways to keep coaches here and not go take other jobs. Whether NFL, that's one thing. Head coaching jobs, that's another. Yet, how does someone not want to be a quarterback's coach, rather go be an analyst, coach a little bit in Alabama, make a lot of money? Probably and possibly could happen under Nick Saban. I'm not sure how that will work under Caleb DeBoer, but you get the point. UCLA, can they keep up? They have slowly caught up little by little in this recruiting class game in 24. They are slowly a step ahead in 25, in my opinion, for DeShaun Foster. Now, can they do so with quality coaches? And for somebody with limited to zero head coaching experience like DeShaun Foster, you need literally all the help you can around him. Can UCLA, as we've talked about before with Leo Frank, can they get the overall university chancellor support literally from the top down to just get a little bit more here, and they can get more around the football program, all around these other programs, which are slowly going to be unlimited coaches, it seems like, if you just have a lot of money. And that's a little tougher for a public university like UCLA, even though they have a lot of students. But if they can do so, they can just somewhat nudge their way in and hope that the Southern California appeal, the LA appeal, the swagger of, say, DeShaun Foster, the brashness for Mick Cronin, if you will, although this isn't necessarily college basketball talk, and everything can really bring things forward. UCLA can take a step forward, a leap forward as an athletics program. It's a large step from just coaches being able to coach anything in college football. That's where things are heading in college athletics, whether they're Olympic sports, whether they're non-revenue sports, whether they're the big dogs, basically, that make a lot of money. That is what's changing. And UCLA is going to have to literally put their foot on the gas and pedal to the metal to keep up with everybody else. I'm not sure they're ready to do that. They've been ready to, all right, guys can get money, players. We can get some NIL support. We can get a guy who actually cares about recruiting and get some big names to help assist him. But this is the next level. And the SEC is going to go do things. All these other Big Ten schools are going to start to do things. ACC, while they're trying to keep Florida State in there and North Carolina, they're going to try to do their best the same thing. Big 12's already leaps and bounds trying to do similar things. Now, all these changes, some may say good, some might not say the same thing, but it'll be fun times either way for UCLA and the rest of everything. We'll talk more UCLA basketball recruiting, and we'll talk more basketball scheduling. A fun, it looks like loaded non-conference slate for UCLA, Gonzaga, North Carolina, all these things. What does that mean? We'll talk about that next on Locked On UCLA. In the meantime, get your hands up, Bruins fans. 8 clap time, baby. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. UCLA. UCLA, fight, fight, fight. This has been Locked On UCLA. Download, subscribe. Thanks for your support in the podcast. I'm Zach signing off. Go Bruins.